welcome to another training video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about something that is coming up to the peak of race season. And we're in the middle of July here, and I know I've personally got a race coming up this coming weekend at the time of this recording with Ironman Oregon 70.3, and I want to talk a little bit briefly about what a taper is. And taper is quite a common word that's used a lot, not only in the triathlon community, but we do lots of tapering in the swimming community as well. And taper is often heard, and you often hear athletes that do marathons, half marathons, or any long endurance events. And the idea really behind a taper is you want to rest your body and sharpen your body after a really long training period, but just enough recovery to where you're fully rested, but not too much recovery to where you'll start to lose fitness. And so the idea is a taper is more or less is kind of a supercharging of a recovery, where it's a little bit more of a longer recovery type of thing. And the tapers can usually last anywhere between 3 days to upwards to even like 6 weeks for some athletes. It's all dependent on what type of event that you're doing. But in general, what studies have shown, and I know I've got the latest USA Triathlon magazine here, and what they found, at least scientifically, is anywhere between 8 to 14 days before really big competition is a really good amount of taper time. But of course, everybody's going to be different. So what I'm here to talk about are a couple of thoughts and a couple of tips to a really good taper. Some of these tips I personally have incorporated and have learned from hard experience, and some of these tips I know are really good tips, yet I don't take them. So with that stated, let's get right into it. So, taper basics. The first thing that we want to do is make sure that we get our Z's. Yes, that is correct. You want to make sure that you get your sleep correct here. Even though with tapers, what typically happens is that you'll lower the duration of your exercise. But it doesn't mean that you go and just substitute the duration of exercise with eating or not getting enough sleep and doing something else. You really want to make sure that you're on top of your sleep pattern. And that's something that I've really learned over the past couple of years is getting still adequate amount of sleep, and sleep is still the most important part of recovery. So make sure that you get your Z's. All right? The second part is also taking care of the mental side. You want to make sure that your mental state is as good as your physical state. And the reason is, if you aren't mentally sharp on race day, you can physically feel really good, but when it comes to execution, it's all about what's going on in the head here to make sure that you're really focused in. And so when it comes to lots of different stresses, try to plan things out in advance so that you can take care of yourself mentally. And so when it comes closer to race day, with all the things that happen, like check-in, getting and making sure that you got the right carb loads, sometimes you'll be taking a look at the race course, and there's going to be some anxieties pre-race, the pre-race nerves. That's going to happen. And it's important to make sure that you keep a good mental state. Just remaining calm. You don't want to remain, of course, too calm. Pre-race nerves are natural, and you should really embrace them. But don't let the anxiety really get to you, because a lot of the times it's out of your control. The third thing, sessions. So intensity needs to be kept at the intensity which you work out for your hard sessions. And I point these two arrows up is because you want your intense sessions to still be intense, because you want to be able to recruit those muscles at that high intensity effort when you need to on race day. And there will be times where your adrenaline is going to be flowing, and you won't realize that you're putting in a little bit of a harder effort than you think you are. And so, to combat this during a taper, even though you are decreasing your overall volume, generally speaking, you still want to keep some intensity sessions to sharpen your body, because your body needs to be able to go on a dime. in times, especially when it comes to some of the beginning of the swims where you're going through transition and your heart is racing. You want to be able to simulate that and be able to control your intense efforts. And make sure that those intense efforts are still hard, because you won't know when your body is going to really use them. The fourth thing, and that's going to be nutrition. It's very important here to make sure, if I can spell this right, there we go. Nutrition is key. In addition, not only to your sleep, you want to make sure that you're consuming the right amount of nutrients into your body to allow for a full recovery. And this may consist of not just only with the typical carb loading that we often see, but it can be just as important to get maintain a well-balanced diet. So that means getting lots of fruits, vegetables, some whole grains in your body, nothing that's highly processed. You want to make sure that your body is able to absorb the food that you go and consume. And especially before race day, the last thing you want to be is to have such a huge meal prior to race day that you just feel bloated when you wake up in the next morning and you're not able to sleep. So maintaining good nutrition is essential for a good taper. And you want to make sure that you have good nutrition really throughout any time of your training sessions, but it's especially important during a taper. And don't try anything new in that regards. And the last thing, as I've said, nerves. It's okay to be nervous. When it comes to nerves, embrace it. That's really the key. Embrace the moment. You've trained really hard for whatever race that you're coming up to. Whether that be just a sprint triathlon or a 5K or all the way up to an Ironman. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel a little bit anxious during this time. Your body is recovering. You're starting to get more energy. Your body's thinking about, well, how am I supposed to use this energy? You will. That's part of why you want to keep the intensity sessions up, is so that you can get rid of some of those nerves. It helps you calm down during the time of taper. And it's okay for being a little bit nervous. So go out there and know that only focus on what you can control. And everything else will play itself out. You've worked hard for race day, and you're now tapering to make sure that you're performing your best. So go and embrace that moment, and you'll make it through taper, and you'll make it to race day just fine, and you can let all that energy out onto the race course. So these are my 5 taper basics here. And feel free to leave a comment if you got other taper tips. I'm certain that there's going to be many others. These are just some tips that I found to be really helpful. And again, if you have other thoughts and ideas, leave it down in the comments below. That being stated, if you like the content here, then please go and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification if you haven't already. And with that, I try to post videos every other week. It's been a little bit busy on my end with work, so I'm trying to go on an every other week schedule. And that being stated, I'll see you in the next video.